Sing Hosanna, sing Hosanna, sing Hosanna to the King of Kings. Sing Hosanna, sing Hosanna, sing Hosanna to the King.
I love that. So good. And here we are. I can't believe it's the end of September, but for this last Sunday in September, we're following what we started last week. We found great wisdom in the Judaic tradition with Rosh Hashanah for New Year's and this time of forgiveness and these 10 days leading to Yom Kippur. And so we're going to continue with that tradition because there's so much we can learn by using what wisdom comes from all world traditions, because in unity we're all one. And that's why today's title is One with God.
I really love that we're following this, being inclusive and diverse, and how we recognize the world religions and the religion that is at the origin of Christianity. I really appreciate the timing for this for us as being a Christian faith, because this is the end of the year, the new year in the Judaic tradition. And for us, it's a great time of reflection and that realignment to reassess what we thought we were ready to give up at the beginning of our year. And when we come to terms with where we exactly are, the good news is that we have 3 months still to work through and process our stuff individually, coming into that alignment with God and being really ready to release what does not serve us at the end of our year.
Beautiful. And so this first quote we want to reference is Rabbi David Rosenfield, who says that Yom Kippur is not about personal resolutions and private reflection. It is about standing up and talking to God. I love that. It is about apologizing, about reestablishing our connection with our Creator. We must tell God who we are, where we are holding in life, and what we know needs improvement. Doesn't this resonate with where we are after our summer book study and this time of the autumn is here and it's gotten a little cooler and it's a good time to take in the harvest, take in our personal harvest and see, where am I today? And once we've realized that, we've established that knowing, it's then time for us to commune with our higher power, with God. And I love that this Yom Kippur is taking a stand and talking directly to God. And we don't say directly to God out there. Of course, God's everywhere present. We talk to God within us and making that conviction, because if we can come into a knowing of what it is we're holding on to in our life, what we're attached to, what we're a little stagnant with, we can also know how to get out of it.
Right. I really do appreciate the language in this quote. The power of the spoken word is what comes to mind when I read standing up and talking to God. Of course, God knows. God out there knows. God everywhere knows. And God right here within our beingness knows. But one thing that I know personally is that the 10 days that is part of this tradition for Yom Kippur is the claiming and the power of saying it out loud as our intention, as recognizing where we are, being honest and truthful with ourselves about where we are not, where we're resisting, where we are still holding some fear, and not branching out, not really unfurling our wings fully to reach for that next rung on the branch, right? And where we want to claim improvement. Because if we can name it and we can claim it, then we can activate it. That is the truth and the core of our principal teachings, and knowing that everything that is an alignment for us, as us, will be so. We simply need to come into the awareness.
That's right. And Yom Kippur is considered the Day of Atonement. Mm-hmm. It's a 25-hour period of really hunkering down and talking to God.
Right. And we have wisdom from Eric Butterworth that we see and hear from often because he is just profound. When I read this, I went, this is a little shocking language because it's very traditional Christian language. But he says that the only absolution for sin is atonement with God. So before you cringe at the depth that I did when I read this, allow me to translate metaphysically into a unity-friendly language. Absolution is the absolute. It is part of the unseen realm of divine ideas and unlimited possibilities. Bringing that into our alignment and working through what Charles Fillmore defined sin as is missing the mark and error thinking. So when we can correct our error thinking and align with the absolute into our relative realm where we live with our relatives, that's how I remember the difference, then we are able to come into at one-ment with God. So we are fully living in our human experience. We are busy. We have families and jobs and traffic and bills to pay and. And we're going to veer off course occasionally with our thoughts, with our actions, with what we're thinking that is lower than the truest vibration of what God is and what we are capable of in being an expression of God. So we've done the work in Yom Kippur, coming to the end of Yom Kippur, and we are asking for that forgiveness. We have made amends in these last 10 days, and we are recognizing where the opportunity is to have that conversation, to stand up and claim our truth, to exercise the power of self-forgiveness. In all of those actions, we are bringing ourselves back into wholeness and recognizing our at-one-ment atonement with God.
Yes, and this simple statement says so much. Mm-hmm. We might think our way of resolving our error thought is by just thinking about it again and again and again and again. I have found it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. When we can take our error thought and bring it into alignment with God, where there is no error thought. Mm-hmm. God doesn't care what we've thought. God's only shining that love and light. We, as human beings, live in this relative realm where there's shadow and light, tall and dark, good and bad. All those dualism, male, female, there's all that in this, and in the context of this. The only where we're going to find absolution of error is by being one with God where there is no error. That's the resolution. That's the recreation. It's that coming home and being one with God. That's what atonement is. At one-ment. One with God.
Perfectly stated.
And we turn to the wisdom of co-founder Charles Fillmore, who says that atonement means the reconciliation between God and men through Christ. Now, Christ is that Christ consciousness. Jesus became the way by which all who accept him may pass over to the higher consciousness. We have atonement through him. Also, this sounds very traditional. But we must look at our co-founders, Myrtle and Charles Fillmore. They saw the life journey importantly connected with Jesus. Live as Jesus. Teach as Jesus. Heal as Jesus. And so with this recognition that Jesus is the way shower, that we have within this man who walked the earth, who achieved at one with God always. It's an emblem. It's an example. It's a realization that we too can achieve that same Christ consciousness. That reconciliation where we let go of the attachment to the dualism and honor and breathe and live oneness.
Mm-hmm. And I really love that this is the difference between the Christ and Jesus is encompassed in this sharing and teaching from Charles Fillmore, because it is two distinctly different things on that journey of life that Jesus had. Jesus was definitely enlightened, but he woke up to that. And just like you and I, just like we are coming into the awareness of our divine potential on our life journey, there's a blank spot in the Bible. There's other teachings that we can use to fill that in. But Jesus, the man, went through constant evolution and demonstrated that for us in the Bible all the way up to his death, where he was at that final moment of pure ascension, final moment of crossing over, passing over into full enlightenment. And I think that had to have been not only a great teaching and demonstration for us, but to recognize that even up until that last breath, he hadn't fully embodied the Christ consciousness. Now, he was a teacher of love, of acceptance, of forgiveness for us also, time and time again. And when we stop and we pray as he demonstrated, we are coming into at-one-ment. We are opening ourselves up to our connection with the divine. And when we are making a practice of that regularly, but intensifying it during this Jewish observation, this high holy days, then we are really taking a page out of his teachings of how important it is for us to stop everything, assess the landscape of our lives, and recognize that we have come here to be forgiveness, come here to be love, and definitely, ultimately, come here to be an expression at one with God. When we do that, we are capable of seeing the unseen, bringing that into manifestation in our individual lives and the lives of the collective. And I really like what is said in our next quote by Charles Roth. It eliminates that contradiction. Doing a loving act let me say it again, doing a loving act out of motive of atoning for our guilt is selfish, not loving. And an act cannot be selfish and loving at the same time. For love means selflessness. We had to pick this apart, didn't we?
Yes.
I have been known to be a selfish lover in the world. I am a parent, and I selfishly want to protect my children. I selfishly want to make sure that I don't experience fear or terror or disappointment at their actions. But of course, they have to develop. They are going to fall. They are going to make mistakes. They're going to goof up. And when I can relinquish the idea that I'm responsible for their choices, I'm able to be in alignment with truth. Because the truth of the matter is that each one of us have come on our own life journey. And we also have our human heart, our human emotions, and we want to protect them. But therein lies the contradiction, and therein lies the need for forgiveness, because we've surely said something out of turn. We've surely stepped out of truth, that sin, out of alignment with truth, and had error thoughts or error actions, and we come back into alignment. We can do this every single day, and in fact, probably need to do it every single day. If you're having any kind of life and enjoying it, we need to come back into alignment and remember the truth of our being, because we're learning and we're making mistakes, and we can always come home. What do you think?
Well, I love that we're concluding our talk with this slide, because it brings to the forefront. I mean, I've looked at my own life, and when I have that tone of I'm right and you're wrong with my partner, that sometimes is a little patronizing, not honest. It's selfish, because I'm trying to eke out some power over, all in the guise of someone I love so much. It doesn't work, because you can't be selfish and loving at the same time. And as we adopt a loving practice, loving ourselves through our living small, or operating in that small selfish way. Now, selfish is different than self-care, but we can analyze how we're responding, reacting, and speaking to the people we love. And we can see examples of it in society. But the best place to find a place to work with it is with the people we're closest to. And there we can choose, maybe we can choose to spend a little less time on selfish, trite, controlling behavior, and choose a loving behavior that may point out that something's not quite right in a loving way, rather than bringing out the little whip and cracking it. We're human, and that error thought is going to happen. And what did we find out from Eric Butterworth? We found out that the only way for absolution is atonement with God at one-ment.
Step out on the water, release your faith. Every step is stronger. Step out on the water.